You know that annoying moment when you play your opening theory, stick to the principles you've been taught, and your opponent just starts chucking the most random moves possible? You've done your homework, you've studied the lines, you know your theory, and then your opponent just throws all of that out the window. They start pushing pawns down the board, ignoring development, ignoring all the principles you've been taught to follow. And somehow, you're the one who ends up losing. This is known as overextending, and is most common in lower elo levels, but can sometimes happen in intermediate games as well. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how to recognize when your opponent is doing it, and how to punish them for it. So what's actually going on here? It's not that your preparation was wrong. It's not that the opening principles are bad advice. The issue is something a little different. It's a lack of initiation. You knew the rules, but you didn't know how to take action when your opponent broke them. And that's exactly what we're going to fix today. Let's paint a picture. You sit down, the game starts, and you do everything right. You develop your knights, you get your bishops out, you castle your king early and tuck it away safely. You're following the playbook. Meanwhile, your opponent is doing something completely different. They're sending pawns down the board. 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to the 5th rank, trying to crowd out your pieces and create some kind of pawn storm attack. Now, here's what happens to a lot of players in this situation. You don't really clock what they're doing until it's too late. You're focused on your own plan. Maybe you're thinking about where your rooks should go, and then suddenly, they've trapped one of your pieces. Usually a knight or a bishop, maybe even a queen. And now they've got a material advantage. Their pieces start coming out and the game slips away from you. Sound familiar? It happens all the time. And the frustrating thing is that your opponent made a real mistake. They overextended, but you didn't know how to take advantage of it. Here's the core concept I want you to take away from this video. Every time a piece moves, it stops seeing certain squares. That's just how chess works. A piece can only be in one place at a time, and when it moves forward, it leaves something behind. With pawns, this is especially critical, and here's why. Pawns can't go back. That's the rule. Once a pawn moves forward, it is committed. There is no retreat. So when your opponent launches a big pawn storm, pushing loads of pawns up the board, yes, it might look threatening and aggressive. But think about what they've left behind. That entire side of the board is now undefended from the back. The pawns have advanced, and there's nothing covering the squares they used to protect. And there's another problem for your opponent too. If they've spent the first several moves just pushing pawns, they probably haven't developed their minor pieces. Their knights are still on b1 and g1. Their bishops are still sitting behind the pawns. And crucially, their king probably hasn't castled. It's still stuck in the center, exposed. So while it might look like your opponent is attacking, they've actually created a really fragile position for themselves, allowing you to counterattack. You just need to know how to expose it. Alright, so how do we actually punish this? Let's break it down. The first thing you want to do is identify where your opponent is weak. If they've pushed pawns on the king side, that side of the board is going to be full of holes, open lines, undefended squares, and probably an uncastled king sitting somewhere in the middle. That's your target. Start developing your pieces toward that side. Get your bishops pointing at the weak squares. Get your rooks onto open files. Build up pressure before your opponent has a chance to shore up their defenses. And here's the really important part, the tempo. When your pieces start threatening things, your opponent has to react. They have to spend moves dealing with your threats, which means they have no time for their own plans. Every move they spend defending is a move they're not using to develop, not using to castle, not using to build anything constructive. This is called gaining tempo, and it's one of the most powerful tools in chess. You're essentially gaining an extra move, putting your opponent on the back foot so completely that they never get to do what they wanted to do. While they're scrambling to patch up their position, you're calmly developing more pieces, building a stronger attack, and thinking ahead. They're reacting. You're dictating. Let me show you a position from a subscriber game that illustrates this perfectly. White has gone completely overboard with their pawns. When you look at the board, almost all of White's pieces are still sitting on their starting squares. The knights haven't moved, the bishops are still locked in, but White's pawns, they're scattered all over the center of the board. The result is a king that has zero protection. There's nothing covering the squares around it, and it's sitting in a really uncomfortable spot. Black, on the other hand, has developed most of their pieces. And yes, there's a slight inaccuracy somewhere in Black's play. You'll notice Black did castle into danger, but the overall picture is very clear. Black is organized. White is a mess. Now White plays f takes g5, capturing a pawn. And on the surface that looks like a free pawn. But think about what we just said. White's king is already exposed. This move could have been used to develop a piece or bring the king to safety. Taking a pawn only makes the position worse. That pawn was serving a defensive function, and now it's gone. Black can now go hunting. With the right sequence, Black can force White's king out into the center of the board. The most dangerous place for a king to be in the middle game. From there, Black can either set up a mating net, or at the very least win enough material to make the endgame completely winning. This is what punishing overextension looks like in practice. White made the mistake. Black recognized it. And Black capitalized. Now I want to briefly touch on something closely related to overextending, bringing your queen out too early. The queen is your most powerful piece, and it's tempting to want to use it straight away. But here's the problem. If you bring your queen out early, your opponent can attack it with cheaper pieces. Every time they kick your queen around with a pawn or a knight, they're developing their position and gaining tempo. Meanwhile, your queen is running away and accomplishing nothing. This is exactly why, if you look at almost any mainstream opening theory, early queen moves are rare. They're usually a sign that something has gone wrong. The queen is powerful, but it needs support. It needs the rest of the army behind it before it steps onto the battlefield. Now, there are exceptions. One of the most well-known is the Scandinavian defense, where after e4 d5, e takes d5 queen takes d5, the queen comes out on move 2. That sounds like a disaster waiting to happen, but Black has a plan. One of the key moves in that line is c6, which creates an escape square for the queen. So if White tries to gain tempo by attacking it, say with bishop d2, the queen has a safe square to retreat to without losing another tempo. The lesson here is that if you're going to break a rule, you need to know exactly why you're breaking it and what your safety net is. In the Scandinavian, Black has thought this through. In most cases though, the queen should stay home until the position is ready for it. So let's bring it all together. Overextending is one of the most common mistakes you'll see, especially at lower levels. Players get excited about attacking, push their pawns forward, and forget what they're leaving behind. Your job is to recognize it. Don't panic when you see a pawn storm coming at you. Stay calm. Identify the weaknesses your opponent has created, and start building pressure on those squares. Use tempo. Force them to react. Develop your pieces to the right places, and let the attack build naturally. If you enjoy educational chess content like this, leave a like and hit that subscribe button. If you want to see me analyze your own game, comment analysis along with your chess.com username and the opponent you faced.